Hello everyone, welcome back to Potted Plant Entertainment. My name is Chris, and in case you don't know, I review movies and I rank them on a scale of 0 to 100 in increments of 5. Today, we are going to be talking about Robocop. Robocop was released in 1987 and it stars Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Ronnie Cox, Kurtwood Smith, Miguel Ferrer, and Paul McCrane. It was directed by Paul Verhoeven and is produced by John Davison. And this movie tells the story of a police officer who is killed in the line of duty in Detroit. Detroit is owned by this company. The police department was struggling financially, and so this company tells them, "Hey, we'll fund you guys, but we essentially get to take over." And so they're like, "All right." So they take over this police department. Now they run the police department, and they come up with this initiative called the Robocop Initiative. And so they start sending officers to more dangerous areas in hopes that one of them will get killed so that they can do this. And of course, one of them does, and that ends up being Peter Weller's character. He gets murdered on the line of duty, and he becomes the Robocop. They take him, like what's left of him, and they put him in this robot. And then this robot will go around enforcing the law. And it's supposed to be a step up from law enforcement. As the tagline for this movie says, the future of law enforcement. There's this battle going on between some of the executives there because this is a satire about 1980s businessmen. 1980s businessmen were very, very serious about what they did. They wanted to be the best businessmen they possibly could. If you ever seen movies like American Psycho, that movie is also a satire about 80s businessmen. This movie is really, really good. If you haven't seen this movie, it's so good. It's such a good movie. It was even better for me the second time. I love Robocop. Robocop is such a good movie. He's such a cool hero. Look at him. There were two sequels to this that I have not seen, but I heard they were really bad. And they rebooted it in 2014. I saw that, didn't care that much for it, but this movie rocks. This is a really good movie, and I'm going to tell you why. So the first reason is the action. The action in this movie is great. It's clear, wide angles, so you can see everything, and it's so much fun to watch. This movie has a lot of news reports and commercials, which are also satires, and those are really entertaining as well. Robocop's costume is just awesome. The violence. This is a very violent movie. Paul Verhoeven likes to exemplify violence in his movies. And so it's really apparent here, and it's really awesome. It's super entertaining. It's super fun. There's a lot of substance to this movie. When Paul Verhoeven first read the script, he didn't even finish it before he threw it on the ground and walked away because he hated it. And then his wife picked it up and she read it. And she went to him and she said, "Hey, you should reconsider this because I think there's a lot more to this than you think." And so he went back and he reread it and he saw that there really is some depth to this movie. There's some heart to this movie. This movie got turned down by so many directors and studios because they just immediately they saw the title Robocop and they thought it was stupid. Well, it's one of the greatest sci-fi action movies of all time. So, a lot of people dropped the ball on this. And it's a good thing Paul Verhoeven got to helm this too. He also later helmed Total Recall, which is really good. So, I'm really glad that Paul Verhoeven got to helm this movie because he's a really good director. Like I said, all the satire on this is great. The Ed 209, which is one of the villains, is this giant mech robot thing with these big machine guns on its arms. Really, really cool villain. I love that thing. It's so awesome. The special effects are really good too. The Ed 209 is motion. It's stop motion. It's a little toy that they stop motion. And the stop motion holds up really well. I mean, you can tell it's stop motion, but at least it's not CGI. I mean, I would much prefer that to CGI. There's one scene where the special effects really don't hold up, and it's where somebody's falling. They got these really long arms. It's really bad. But other than that, the special effects in this movie really hold up. The theme song is incredible. Robocop is one of my all-time favorite movie themes. I love the Robocop theme song. It's so good. My favorite scene from this movie was probably when a couple of guys are attempting to rape this woman. After Robocop is put together, they send him out onto a night in the town in Detroit to do his thing. And you see him with doing three different encounters. The second encounter, the first one is he stopped a convenience store robbery. The second one was when he stopped a rape, and then the third one was when he took care of a hostage situation. But the second one is my favorite because he pulls up, and they see him coming out of this cop car, and the guy puts a knife to the woman's throat, and he aims it between this girl's legs, even though she's wearing a dress, and he shoots him in the crotch. How satisfying is it to watch a rapist get shot in the crotch? It's so awesome. Like, he shoots a rapist in the crotch. This movie is so good, and it's awesome because of stuff like that. It's very quotable. I love the quotes from this movie. Some of my all-time favorite movie lines come from this movie. Your move, creep. Dead or alive, you are coming with me. So good. And I like, because he uses that line twice. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. And it's such a good line. He uses it when he's alive, and he uses it when he's a robot. And it just works so good. I love Peter Weller's movements in this suit. See, the reason why they casted him is because they needed someone to fit in the Robocop suit. Now, Peter Weller didn't amount to a whole lot outside of this and Buckaroo Banzai, but they wanted someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they needed someone who was thin enough to fit in this suit. And so they got Peter Weller for that after he was in Buckaroo Banzai. And he was so good in this movie. He moves super well. When I watch him move in this movie, he has absolutely got me convinced that that is a robot. That is not a living person. That is a robot in that suit because he does such a good job at miming these movements. I love it when the robot starts to become self-aware and starts to remember who he is. That's what I was talking about, going back to the substance. There's a lot of good substance in this movie, and it really makes you care for this character. When he first becomes a robot, it immediately, for a while, it puts you into his eyes. You don't see him right away. You see the world through his eyes, and that really, really helps you care and feel closer to this character. It's really, really good writing on their part to have, before you even see him, that you first see everything through his eyes. Robocop's reveal is pretty cool too. It's not like this big grand thing, like he steps in a room and then it shows him and there's this loud booming music. No, it doesn't. It's not cliched like that. His reveal is actually a lot better done than that. The pacing is very good. This is a really, really well-paced movie. There isn't a dull moment in this film. This movie is constantly, the pacing in this movie is some of the best pacing I've ever seen in a film, ever. It's edited really well, and the ending is perfect. When I first watched this movie, I hated the ending. So, I once saw this movie called Nighthawks. It has Sylvester Stallone, and at the end of the movie, he kills the bad guy. And then he sits down next to the bad guy's corpse, and then the credits roll in. And I hate that movie, and that ending is part of the reason why. It's so abrupt. I hate it. And so the ending of this movie, I felt was very abrupt too. Because somebody asked him, he says, "What's your name, son?" And then he turns to him and he says, "Murphy," because his character's last name is Murphy. He doesn't say Robocop, he says Murphy. And then he walks away, and then the credits roll in. And when I first watched this movie, I thought that was really abrupt. I don't like that. But when I watched it again, I was like, no, that is perfect. That is a perfect ending. It's a great character arc. It was the best way they could have ended this movie. The ending is perfect. I can't believe I hated it the first time I watched this movie. I can't believe it because that ending is just perfect. I love Robocop. I forgot to write down my score, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. If you haven't seen Robocop, I really, really recommend it. I've heard the sequel, like I said, I've heard the sequels are pretty skippable, and I saw the reboot and I didn't care that much for it. But this movie, this is a fantastic movie. It came out the same year as Lethal Weapon and Predator. I mean, that really says something about 1987 and action movies, because this movie is great. And of course, Robocop gets a 100. It's such a good movie. There's a couple of like little plot holes with it, but it's like Back to the Future. That's got a couple of plot holes in it, but it's just such a good movie. That's like, who gives a crap? You know, Robocop is, I love this movie. I love this movie, and I guarantee you're gonna love it too. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Pod Player Entertainment for more and hit the like button. Leave movie or review suggestions down in the comments down below. Follow me on Instagram at Pod Player Entertainment for channel updates, and much love. Oh, and stay out of trouble.